recent webinar, Brian Dawson from CloudBees pointed out that the real unicorn in continuous delivery process is the ability to deliver software changes to stakeholders in any environment. And this includes software changes continuously deployed to production. Let's go ahead and take a look at our continuous delivery process that we have going on. Typically, on the development side, we have our agile development, which we have smaller incremental changes that are occurring. Those incremental changes are then checked into Git, for example, which kicks off our continuous integration process. Our continuous integration process does the compile, creating our binaries, and then that gives the developers something to test in their development environment. Once the developers are happy with what they have as far as their changes, then they need to go ahead and get those changes out to the stakeholders in any of the environments. So they need to deliver those changes once they're happy out to QA, UAT, or a production-like environment. And those changes should be delivered automatically after the developers are ready to go. So that process of continuous delivery is an automatic process. The problem is the developers, when they do this, are not able to create a repeatable or standardized process that enables live production updates. Instead, we get this staging area that happens for production. And then there's a turnover, which the operations or production control then pulls those developer changes into the live production environment. So that we have this breakdown because of the staging area, and it's typically around the scripts that the developers have created to work in their environment. But those scripts do not adapt well to production. So let's look at a continuous delivery process that is usually set up using those scripted deployments. The scripting comes into play around the package and deploy. As you know, most applications are no longer just a single executable or binary. There's many different moving pieces that need to be packaged together. Developers will script that using some sort of archiving such as zip or a war or ear as part of their process, or creating an RPM to create the package that they need. So that's scripted, and then the deployment process is also scripted utilizing something like an SCP command or SSH to hit the target environment. The problem is the scripts that the developers were writing for their part of the pipeline do not adapt to QA, and then QA has to modify them, make them work for QA. And again, operations or production control are going to have their own scripts. So across this whole pipeline, we have a disjointed process. Nothing is repeatable, nothing is standardized, and that's causing staging to occur and production control pulling changes from staging instead of the continuous delivery pipeline automatically moving them from development all the way out to production seamlessly. So let's look at how to achieve continuous deployment using open source tools. DeployHub is an open source ARA solution, application release automation tool. If you look at the whole pipeline here, we have issue tracking that's open source, such as Bugzilla. We have Git for version control. We have Jenkins for the continuous integration and build, Selenium for continuous testing, and DeployHub to fit into the missing piece, which is the continuous deployment part of the puzzle. DeployHub, because it's open source, allows project teams an alternative to those heavy enterprise level application release automation tools. They can go ahead and implement this at the project level, creating a standardized and repeatable process from development through the other stages of the pipeline into live production. So let's take a look at what happens with the pipeline now that DeployHub's in place. DeployHub is going to create the standardized and repeatable process around the package and deploy. Because it's standardized and repeatable, we are able to move up and down the pipeline very easily. So we can go from development to QA to production seamlessly. If we look at some of the DeployHub market recognition, Gartner has recognized in the Magic Quadrant and critical capabilities for the application release automation space that DeployHub has strong integrations with Jenkins and Ansible, making it a compelling option for those looking to extend those tools. Also recognized by SD Times as a DevOps leadership and vision category. So how do we get beyond where we are today and look at application release automation overall? If you look at some of our competitors, they're going to be approaching the process from the operations standpoint, and they're going to try to sell one tool for everybody. That's going to be purchased by the operations side, and it's going to be implemented by operations, which means the developers are not going to have any input into taking that tool down into their CI/CD process. Our competitors are cost way beyond a single project team. Because they're enterprise level and one tool for everybody, a single team can't afford it. So instead, the DeployHub is a very low cost solution. We have a SaaS version that's available. It would be $25 per month for an application for the open source. And the application is typically a collection of components or binaries that you want to deliver as a single package. Basically equates to an application team, development team. So that's $25 per month for the open source, $80 for the pro. And then on-premise, we have the $6,000 for 10 applications, and then $23,000 for 50 applications. Enterprise level, over 50 applications, we do have that available as well. All these include support and maintenance as part of the subscriptions. What you get with the pro versus the open source, the continuous feedback loop is extended out to track code commits, so we know exactly which files have changed as part of the deployment, tracking those from the developer all the way out to the endpoint where that coding change was made. Also, we have smart calendars in the pro version, which enables us to control the pipeline from a calendaring perspective. So instead of having to change a pipeline project, like in Jenkins, going and modifying a Jenkins file for a testing period, DeployHub just enables you to go ahead and put a calendar entry out there that says, I'm doing testing, and when you restrict the calendar in that fashion, the pipeline is notified of those restrictions. Also, we have release train coordination, which enables us to take multiple applications together, coordinate those to be deployed as a single unit as well. And then also the pro version has additional security groups and domain hierarchies that cater towards the enterprise level project teams. Also, we have change request integration into Jira, Bugzilla, GitHub, issue tracking, those types of external tools where we're able to link together more information from into the feedback loop, enabling us to do change request burnout rates and additional release planning. Come out and join the community for the open source. Just go to deployhub.org. The project is hosted on GitHub as well, and there's a full community out there that involves the Google groups, Slack channels, issue tracking, and all the source code for the DeployHub open source.
DeployHub is the concept of an application, and you have application versions of those applications. So what we're looking at in the blueprint here is the IT Guys application, version 4. One of the first components that we have is going to be the zOS component. So the zOS component is going to be a COBOL program that we're going to be working with from the mainframe side. As part of this, we've also packaged together what this application needs is also some infrastructure layer for Postgres, Java at the infrastructure layer, and those two are going to be actually installed and configured through our integration with Ansible. Over here we have a database component That's actually going to update rows into the Postgres database once that's been provisioned up and running. And then we have our other side of our application, which is our web app, which is going to be, this is the Tomcat at the infrastructure layer for what's needed to run the WAR file here. So what we've done is we've literally pulled together the mainframe, database, infrastructure, application, Java application, all together into a single view of our application for this version. This makes it very easy for us to, at this point, we don't really worry about where it's going to, how it's being deployed. We're just getting the pieces together in our blueprint of what is everything that we want to package together as part of this process of deploying it. And DeployHub will figure out what needs to go where as part of that process. I actually drill into our component for the mainframe, one of the things I have as part of this is the component type. So I'm assigning that this is a load lib component that we need to work with. If we go back and look at, for example, this component here for the WAR file, we can see that it's just called an application file. So because of this component type, we're able to map and route objects or artifacts to go to the right places as part of the deployment process. So what we have, let me go into, this is the Meister on the mainframe, and I'm going to go into the setup here. And you'll see here we have a COBOL program. We're going to create a load module for a COBOL program. If I go ahead and edit this guy, this is very similar to an Endeavor processor group. Basically, this is on the back end an XML file that enables us to define what build type or processor group that's going to be utilized. In this case, this is the COBOL load module as that type. And then we have our high-level dependencies. In this case, we were just worrying about the HiWorld COBOL program. Copybooks, we actually have a set of scanners built into Meister that will find copybooks and resolve those as part of the dependency tree generation. These build types, you can have, if I go down, there's a bunch of different types. If we're dealing with an assemble load module, CICS programs, DB2 will be in here, PL1, any of those types come out of the box. You can create additional build types and modify our existing ones. So that gives you the complete flexibility to really tailor Meister to your existing environment. And if we look at if we had a C program would have multiple dependencies. So you don't have to have just a single dependency. You can have multiple dependencies. So if you had 5 C programs that go into the load module, those would each be a dependency. So what we're going to do as part of this process is I have another target here that is going to be the stepping stone to packaging what we've built in a transmittable format. So the XMIT format enables us to move not only from LPAR to LPAR, but also from one mainframe to another. So if we want to go from one data center, bring the artifact, what we've built, off of the mainframe, put it somewhere that we can then distribute to another data center, that XMIT format allows us to do that. You'll see as part of this deployment process, we're going to actually be working with these 4 load libraries. Right now, we have no members in them, and we're actually going to deploy as part of that process. Now, like I said, the intermediate step that we're going to do is we'll actually build here. We'll build for development. After that build has been completed, we're actually going to publish the results out to Artifactory. You can see here I have several versions. We're at version 11 here of our load module. So this is giving us a way to store versions of our binaries so we can go forward and backwards through time, and if we need to roll back, we have a place to roll back from. Artifactory is just one I just chose randomly. It could be Nexus, it could be Meister has its own binary repository as well. I just chose this one just out of because I had it up and running. So let's go ahead and go back to our mainframe here, and we'll just build all these. So I've just submitted my job to go ahead and do the build process. So I'm going to create the load library, and then I'm going to go ahead and create my package as part of that. Also, like I said, we'll be publishing the artifacts out to Artifactory as part of that process. And what this is going to allow us to do is in the development stage, like in the case like Endeavor, as soon as you check something in, Endeavor builds as part of that process. Because Endeavor has the link, it is a regular CI engine. You check it and build. We would hook onto that processor to go ahead and publish down to a centralized repository like Artifactory. So here are my jobs that came in, our compile step here, and then our package. So if we actually look at our members here, we have our new load library that's been put in place. And if I refresh this page, we have version 12 now that's been generated and uploaded. If we go back to DeployHub, we can actually look at our application here in our timeline. We can see that we just did our deployment as part of this process. When we did do that deployment, we did deploy the application. So that not only did we deploy version 12, but also I forced it to redeploy some of the distributed side. DeployHub can work in two modes where you can tell it to force a deployment of a component, or it can be incremental. If we look at the log file here, we'll actually see that there's pieces that are already incremental. Those Postgres and the Java piece, those I had in incremental mode, so I did not force a redeployment of those. Also, like our database layer our database roll forward was already on the server, so we didn't re-execute that, because that's one of the things with database updates. They really need to be incremental. You don't want to go and add the same data multiple times, or try to add the same column that already exists as part of that process. So from here, we've deployed to development, and now we're going to go ahead and come along, and somebody's going to go, okay, we're happy with version 12. Let's go ahead and deploy this down the pipeline. What we're typically seeing is developers on their CI process, they'll want to deploy to development all the time, but they may deploy to development 50 times today and never send it to testing or integration or production. Because of that, there's usually some sort of gated approval that's in process that bridges between what the developers are doing in their CI process and the rest of the pipeline for continuous deployment. I'm going to go ahead and run this pipeline, and we'll go into it. So we have several steps in our pipeline. We're going to do the integration, which is going to be our system integration, making sure all of our code is good to go with our teammates. From there, we're going to actually go out to testing. Once testing's been completed, we'll go out to production. As each step in this, when we are done with the deployment to integration, we'll actually go ahead and run some test cases. So we'll have automated test cases that are going to kick in, and we're going to verify that everything was good to go. If all the test cases pass, then we're going to move to the next stage of the pipeline automatically. So we'll see here we did our deployment. Here's our deploy log, everything that happened. This is what we just saw similar back in DeployHub, we bring it all back, centralize that, and then here's our test cases. We ran 10 successful test cases. And because we were successful here, we automatically moved through the pipeline. Now, if I jump back to DeployHub real quick, DeployHub is actually mirroring the pipeline in Jenkins. And this is one of the things that we can do. We can actually do all this without Jenkins. With DeployHub itself, we have a pipeline built in, but you'll see here version, I already made it up to production. Version 4 has already gone up to production here as it jumped through the different stages. We could get the history of it. So we have that full audit history. So here I did the approval when I basically started the Jenkins job running. I deployed into integration testing. Then I moved it into the testing area, which is this stage of the pipeline. From integration, I deployed there, and then I moved into production. Production I did not have any test cases against, and we'll see that as part of this. So testing, we had our test cases here. We had 10 of them. Here's our deployment. You can see we have a different deployment log. Again, we're deploying version 12. We'll see that in here. There's version 12 being deployed out. And if you look at our test cases, we ran 20 test cases for the testing. And those passed, so then we went automatically to production, did our production deployment. And again, the way this pipeline is set up, there's no test cases associated to production, just we do the deployment as part of that.
So if you'd like some more information, go ahead and go out to deployhub.org or openmakesoftware.com. Also, you can just email me at steve.taylor@openmakesoftware or give me a call. Thank you very much.